Glennie Brock is the volunteer coordinator for Birmingham Landmarks and a passionate advocate for historical preservation. As an expert on the Lyric Theater and its restoration, Glennie often offers tours to those interested in seeing this time capsule of early 20th century entertainment.
We are standing in the Lyric lobby. So this is the original lobby of what is now Birmingham's oldest theater. The Lyric was built in 1913 and it opened January 14th, 1914. It was a vaudeville house. So the giants of early 20th century show business, such as they were, performed here. Along the sides, on the floor, and at the walls, there is silicaga marble. So this marble is often called Alabama white or sometimes Alabama pink. It comes from Silicaga, Alabama, south of Birmingham. It's some of the most beautiful marble in the world. All the marble that you see is original to the theater. The ornamental plaster all around the ceiling, this is all original. Originally, the Lyric would have had ceiling fans. The theater itself was not air conditioned. Built in 1913 and then opened in 1914, they did not have air conditioning. When the Alabama Theater was built across the street 13 years later, it had a sign on the marquee that said, "It's cool inside." And that was truth in advertising. Whereas by comparison, what the Lyric always had was a couple of spots in the theater where they would put a 2-ton block of ice with a fan behind it. So primitive AC at best, but so you can see where there would have been fans. As we go forward into the lobby toward the auditorium, there are 3 doorways. Again, these columns made of silicaga marble. And we arrive in a little vestibule where it is all marble on the floor, on the walls, on the stairs going up. Part of the point of a vestibule like this is that you're in a small space before you go forward into the auditorium, into what amounts to a grand space. On the left, where you see this glass door, that is a doorway that we cut. So this glass door is not original, and the doorway itself is not original. That wall was solid marble, again, solid silicaga marble, all the way across. And what's on the other side is a door now. That was, as it was called, the colored entrance. So until the segregation ordinances were rescinded in Birmingham in 1963, all of the theaters on 2nd and 3rd Avenue were white theaters. All of the theaters on 4th Avenue were black theaters. 4th Avenue was the black business district. But here, the Lyric, situated at the corner of 3rd Avenue and 18th Street North, it was one of the first and one of the only theaters in Birmingham where black and white audiences saw the same show at the same time for the same price. However, this was a segregated space, so that wall was solid. For us, in doing the restoration, we have always really addressed the architecture of segregation and what it meant in an entertainment venue, and the ways in which even the architecture for a building like this had segregation built into it. Once we walk through the auditorium doors, we have left behind the silicaga marble. What is underfoot now is a subway tile. So this, a lot of the tile under our feet now is actually 102-year-old tile. It has been here the whole time. The pattern goes all the way back. Obviously, we had to replace a lot of the individual tiles, but this is the pattern that they had 102 years ago. Above our heads is a ribbed barrel vault. So part of what this does is provide structural support for the balcony. There is sort of an acoustic feature to this. To have a barrel vault, ribbed or otherwise, it sort of almost scoops the sound and keeps the sound back in this little cove. We are just crazy about the pattern that is in the ceiling in the ribbed barrel vault. All the decorative paint and plaster work in the Lyric was done by a firm based in New York called Evergreen Architectural Arts. And this design is a design that they uncovered. Obviously, it has been delicately and elaborately retouched now, but we are very happy to know that once again we have this design that was here in the very beginning. On the left and right, there are 12 ornate opera boxes that have cherubs, figures of many musical cherubs carved on the front. Those opera boxes are actually the only new decorative plaster in the room. And what I mean when I say that it's new is those were completely rebuilt. The original opera boxes were actually torn out of the Lyric in the 1950s. At that point, the Lyric, they had decided to try Cinerama or CinemaScope, which was like the IMAX of its day. It was sort of like a Panavision or panoramic presentation for movies, a double wide screen, let's say. And they felt that the opera boxes really affected the sight lines for good movie viewing. So the original ones were lopped off the wall. What we had for about 40 years was just 12 gaping holes on either side of the stage. So those opera boxes are completely new construction, whereas all the other decorative plaster that you see everywhere, the faces on the front of the balcony, the figures of the muses that are standing up above the opera boxes, all that is original, and of course had a lot of retouching, a lot of tidying up, a lot of paint and powder work as they called it, but otherwise the sculpture itself has been more or less intact for 102 years. Part of the reason so much of the plaster survived so well is because nearly all of it is reinforced with horsehair. The stage opening that you see is 58 feet across. What you can't see if you are just an ordinary audience member are the wings of the stage. So the entire width of the stage is 80 feet. This is, in that sense, a true performer's stage. Plenty of room for folks to be waiting in the wings to make their grand entrances. I think that the best view of the mural probably comes if you're in the first balcony. When the Lyric originally opened, we know that this was primarily a white balcony. The concession area is really special, and in part it is a place where it's like the whole history of this building is visible in every direction in this like compact package. It's all of the history, and it's also entirely new. Where the concession area is, this was not originally a part of the Lyric Theater at all. So this area that is now our concession area was 3 storefronts, plus the very small lobby of the Lyric office building. Now it has been transformed into our concession area, our restrooms, our dressing rooms. The bar, to me, is one of the most beautiful things in the building. So what that bar is made of is 102-year-old timber that was made of the old stage grid.
In 1969, the Birmingham Terminal Station was torn down after years of neglect. It served as a hub for rail traffic moving through the region. It was a magnificent and ornate building. Many cite the destruction of the station as the spark that lit the fire of preservation in Birmingham. Many felt we could not afford to lose another historic site. The Lyric is the poster child of preservation in the Magic City, and hopefully only the first of many.